Well, just like you said, shareholders have been given the free hand to pretty much decide on who they will deal with in terms of the new investors that will be coming into the Nigerian rescued banks. However, this has always been a big question, and joining us in the studio today to discuss this is Boniface Okezie, who is the National Chairman of the Progressive Shareholders Association of Nigeria. Thanks a lot for coming on to the program.
Yeah, well, my pleasure.
All right. Obviously, the big news yesterday was that AMCON is in play now, and since the president has signed off on it. But the big question also is, will shareholders allow this? Will the shareholders allow the recapitalization of these banks? One big question that everyone has always been asking is the intervention of the central bank in the first place. Was it legal? What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, to me, shareholders are not against recapitalization of the bank, But what we're saying in the first place is that CBN erred by sacking on the board, the management, replacing with its own appointees was illegality in its own, And that was what we afforded him. Every one of us agreed the decision he took was the right step, but wrong approach. The wrong approach, the fallout, is what we're witnessing today, that have granted the banking industry for standstill, for a halt, okay? And we can move forward. And that's why most of us have referred to law court to seek protection, that your investments, your bank, your company have been taken over with state apparatus. Because the governor, you are not using the state power of giving to him on both here, he acting upon, to take over investment, an appointed manager to overrun, to begin to run those banks, These are money he rescued, and about 60-20 billion he put into these banks on interest payable, which was not free of charge, and the bank are liable to repay this money back to CBN. At the same time, you appointed a manager to run them, that fear of the bank. We thought that, he have obstructed our investments. But nobody's faulting him because he's, as a regulator, as CBN governor, he must make sure to protect institutions.
Okay, now let's look at the intervention now. There was a quote, for instance, in the press recently, quoting the central bank governor during the stakeholders parley that he had. And he said there, and I quote, on the issue of ongoing litigation against the CBN, it was noted that a few individuals took the action without the consent of 7 zonal shareholder associations, and that these few individuals who went to court only did so for personal reasons and as such do not represent the opinions of the shareholders.
That's totally wrong.
What's your comment on that?
In a democratic dispensation we're in, any aggrieved shareholders of any bank or any company has right to sue an institution that are taking state power apparatus to take away the investment from them. You don't need to consult anybody. Today we have different associations registered, recognized by CAC, and those association is the people like mine coming together. The zonal were creation of then TCPC under late Hansa Riyadh, okay, to generate support for privatization at that time when the government were privatizing institutions owned by government.
Right.
Those are institutions. Those are relevant. Some of them have no pedigree. Some of them have nothing at stake. Even some of them have fuel unit as holders, in those banks, in those companies, and they use it to make noise. But anyway, even if one shareholder, that makes you recognize you as a shareholder. So as long as we have gone to court with your members who have identified with you and who own shares in those companies, there's nothing wrong with it. You don't need to seek any amalgamated shareholder association, whatever, whether they are 10 or there's 20, you see the opinion to go into court. You don't need to do that. Or your own member, my own association, went to court on behalf of union bank to challenge the action, and those are appointed, So we are right. Everyone is right. Even if you are not belong to association, you're a shareholder who felt aggrieved, who felt that injustice have been meted out, You can go to court and challenge.
Okay, now let's step back. We know that the central bank, yes, they have appointed new CEOs to run these banks right now and to pretty much midwife the process of handing them into the hands of new investors. Now, we also know that the former management obviously feel aggrieved and might be challenging this. To what impact do you think the challenge of the former management can have on the process right now?
As far as we're concerned, all CBN need to do is to broker dialogue among the warring factions, those who feel aggrieved. Either the past management, okay, because this past management, some of them are owners of the banks that have been sacked by CBN when he took over the banks and appointed his own manager to run a few of those banks. Fine. what we are saying clearly, that CBN should return this bank to the shareholders for recapitalization. As long as their shareholders fund are negative, okay, they have need for the bank to recapitalize. Nobody's opposing that. Everybody agree, concur. But how do we recapitalize? A time frame has not been given for the bank to actualize this recapitalization. How much each bank is required? You need to fashion by CBN. Looked at, some of them have 100 billion. But the minimum allowed to obtain a license to operate a bank is 25 billion. That have not changed in the country. It have not changed. 25 billion. So if you're having 300 billion, that depends on the kind of business you want to prosecute. You want to, look at as a bank. Okay? So, how much will each bank need? 200 billion, 300 billion, you must work it out. And we're telling CBN governor, as a regulator, you don't need to get involved to go and look for who will be invested into the banks or appoint advisors to begin to midwife recapitalization. It is not a duty of central bank. They are not bound to do that. The board are left intact. They were not sacked. What you remove was management. And that's why we fought the CBN intervention. You can remove. The both here, the Kama stated that, but you can replace. Since the executive, non-executive are still on the board, non-executive represent the entire shareholder who report to them, who are appointed by the shareholder, are elected by them. So since they are there intact, you should allow them to begin to midwife recapitalization. You should allow them to source. Right. Because if you are coming now public offering, right issue, to raise money in the Nigerian capital market to recapitalize this bank, that's a mission impossible. Okay. We are talking of shareholder bringing a money block. Okay, just on the last point, because of time, we're running out of time here. Just one last point. Even if shareholders now get involved in moving the recapitalization effort forward, how long is it likely to take? Because obviously there have to be shareholder meetings and so forth. Of course, and that is why we fought CBN also in timetable. You were talking of end of August, September. It can be realizable, Those months are too short. We have to have how many give meetings? 21 days notice to shareholder before they convene a meeting. We already entering August. The July is almost at the end, So those months are not feasible. It's not tenable at all. And it was also Wema Bank, Unity Bank, were given almost 8 months or thereabout. It has been extended now. They should have recapitalized by the end of this June. Okay? Deadline, 31st of June. Right. That was time given to them. It has been extended to, I think, September, October, thereabout, 3 months extension. You look at the month, So you must, if you're giving those banks time to recapitalize, right, must be a year. Okay, so give or take, it might take 3 months? What 3 months is not been the idea. Maybe give them a year, give them 8 months, right, and allow the board to go and source with their own advisors. The board cannot work with the advisors appointed by CBN. Okay, I'm sorry. We really have to move on to the program. But thanks a lot for your insights there.